Hi everybody, here's a short video before I get to my SAT prep next time. Uh, one of my dozen of viewers uh, has requested a little bit of clarification on my last quite long video about the college bribery scandal, meritocracy, and the Stuyvesant High School admissions brouhaha, and how they all connect together and how meritocracy relates to the students, both who didn't get into Stuyvesant and the Asian American students who are suing Ivies and other elite colleges because they didn't get in, and why it all relates to how meritocracy is just a really flawed concept that doesn't really reflect anything we think of as merit. Point is that you have the situation of people with all the privilege in the world buying more privilege by cheating. That's very straightforward, bad. Then you have the more complicated stuff. On the one hand, you have the fact that this year, only a small fraction, I think it was 7 students who applied to Stuyvesant, one of the elite public high schools in New York. Only 7 Black students got in. And my explanation, as best as I can figure it, is that they choose the people who do the highest on the admissions test to get in. And so while there are hundreds of students of color who could do just fine at Stuyvesant, because of the system and the stressors and the wanting to avoid bias, they've created bias by only letting in the people with the best scores. Now, is that merit, having the best scores? And the answer is no, because the people who have the best scores are often people who've gone to the better grade schools in the districts with more money, and they've had parents who can spend money on tutoring. So in essence, it might be more meritorious for the students from a struggling school district who worked hard on their own to pass the test to get into Stuyvesant, get in over some of those students with higher scores. Now, conversely, you have Asian American students who apply to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and are arguing that they got in, that they were not granted admission in a way that isn't fair because it wasn't based on merit, because not every straight A 1600 student gets in and do. And while that isn't in a sense fair, it's also not unfair, and colleges are balancing out a class with a variety of people, as I mentioned last time. There are athletes and scholars and artists, and yes, the one other thing I wanted to talk about was legacy, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the point is that the idea of merit is based on A, how we define merit as a certain reading, writing, and arithmetic, and how B, that isn't even meritorious because people are born into situations where they have much more or less ability to gain that merit through their schools or through the money that they have to get more extra teaching and tutoring. So that's just a little clarification on why meritocracy is beyond flawed. It's not a good term. Legacy. Why legacy isn't purely evil in getting into schools. Any college admissions team will argue, or I don't know, administration will argue that legacy is important because alumni help pay for the scholarships for people who aren't legacy and help pay for the programs and pay for the financial aid by their donations. And if their kids are qualified, they do get a little edge up. And that's, again, not merit-based, but it also keeps the schools in business. And that's a lame argument for someone like Harvard that has $1 zillion, but a better argument for a school like Hampshire here where I live that is in deep financial trouble. So that's just my thoughts on legacy and why it's not 100% bad. It also helps build a community. I also work at a tiny little charter school near me that does do some legacy-based building of their community and their body. If a sibling is in the school, their younger sibling has a better chance of getting in, and openly. And I'm sure there are some who would argue that's not fair, and it's just complicated how we define fair and how we define merit, and we shouldn't pretend it's simple. Now, for any high school senior out there who's going to be taking the English composition exam in May, I just got done tutoring someone and on one of the essays, the analytical essay, the analysis. And it's usually the most difficult essay for a lot of people because they're used to expressing their own thesis and their own opinion. And this essay, you're supposed to leave that out entirely. Your assignment in the analytical essay is to analyze how skillfully the whatever the text is that you've read makes its argument. And I do not encourage you to use the Latin terms of logos and ethos and pathos, but you can use, because they can be alienating to some English teachers who are scoring the test, who don't use those. Use logic and emotion. But I'm not going to give you a full lesson on this right now. The one thing I wanted to say about the analysis essay, because this last hour got done tutoring someone, is make sure you do not express your own opinion. All you are expressing is how skillfully and in what ways the author made his or her argument. And the second part of that is you're not just describing what the person did. You need to describe and then say, by using the term we, you can't just say the author uses we a lot in the essay. You need to say, by using we, the author includes her audience and gets them involved in the topic at hand because it engages them as equals. You need to say what is being argued and how it is being done. And that is my little tip for the AP English analysis essay. If you'd like to work with me on it once a week for the next few weeks before the test, follow the link. Happy April tomorrow.